Everyone is doing well on this late night here in on the East Coast. Not sure where you are. Thanks so much for joining on tonight while we talk about NPD, also known as Narcissistic Personality Disorder. Now, one thing that I want to stress again, and probably while I do this series and as I do each episode, I'll probably make sure I announce the fact that we really want to be mindful, to be sensitive to this particular mental health disorder, because we're seeing a lot of people make light of it, make fun of it, just haphazardly call people narcissists and don't have any background about the person or whether they've been diagnosed or not, and it can be very sensitive. So we want to make sure that we're not just, just saying it just to be saying it, because we, wouldn't want anybody to say insensitive things to us, right? In the event that we had been labeled or, suffered types of trauma or any disability or anything of the sort. So as we go through this today or this evening, I just want you to, just take some notes. One of the best things you can do for a teacher is take notes. One of the best compliments you can give them. And so let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I am Sarette Pierre. I own my own boutique consulting firm, where I'm a global speaker, among many other things. I'm an actor, vlogger, as well as a brand rep, and I'm an abuse survivor myself, and I've been studying NPD for about 20 plus years as a certified spiritual cleansing practitioner, and as a certified personal and licensed coach. I'm also a healing evangelist, where I'm pretty much a restorer of the breach. So any breaches and fragmented parts of our soul that we've all had, I show you how to go back and get those pieces where you left them, if you will. And so I'm known as the Freedom Igniter, where I ignite wellness, help survivors heal using biblical healing of God techniques and principles. And so if you or someone may be suffering various types of abuse now, or if they're on their healing path, we all have a healing journey that if we choose to go on and do the work, then we can be healed. And so, again, I want to make sure, as I give you a little insight, I'm not here to diagnose anyone. Again, I've looked into this NPD, Narcissistic Personality Disorder, for years myself, and I've helped a lot of people who are on both ends. Maybe they were exhibiting narcissistic traits or having been diagnosed. Many people say, psychologically speaking, psychotherapists have stats, and I'm one that don't always subscribe to certain things, specifically by the medical professionals, such as this. And I just want to tell you what they say. They claim that we're all on the spectrum, of narcissism. That's what they say. I don't receive that for myself, but it is more to it than a person being into themselves. If someone posts a lot and they post selfies, you'll hear people say, God, they're so narcissistic, and that's why I want us to be mindful that we really know what it means, and be mindful not to just say it, casually, and being insensitive in doing so. And so I want to just give you a little definition. It's one who exhibits extreme love and admiration for himself or herself, okay? It's very inflated. It's someone who elicits admiration and praise, especially from potential romantic partners, often makes them charming and charismatic. Okay? It's an individual showing symptoms or suffering from narcissism, such as an extremely self-centered person who has an exaggerated sense of self-importance, a person who is overly concerned with his or her physical appearance. Now, that's why I think a lot of people just put that in one box when they see people, as I stated, if people like to take a lot of pictures of themselves or always look in the mirror. That does not necessarily mean that they're narcissistic, right? It's really much more extreme. So we're talking about extreme circumstances and personality styles. We're talking about excessive, preoccupation with their own needs, often at the expense of others. So narcissism exists on a continuum that ranges from normal to abnormal personality expression. While there exists normal, healthy levels of narcissism in humans, right? That's what they mean by the spectrum that they say, medically speaking, psychotherapy speaking, they say that, we're all on the spectrum. That's what they say. But in this example, again, while there exists normal, healthy levels of narcissism in humans, there are also more extreme levels of narcissism being seen. And so when we think of that, it's more pathological, if you will, and it's more particularly in people who are self-absorbed or people who have a pathological mental illness, And so I want to just give you a little bit more insight as it relates to characteristics, traits, and things of that nature. Welcome everyone who has joined. Episode 1 was a couple of days ago, and we just really talked about some traits, and we also talked about one of the ways it manifests. So one of the traits is gaslighting. And that's another buzzword. It's trending. We need to be mindful to stop saying, and if we really don't understand what it looks like and, how people use gaslighting to control you and to really do certain things that many people don't even know is being done to them. And so when I look at, the ways that gaslighting, I'm going to go back over that in some form because I want to be mindful not to repeat myself, because this may take longer than I really expect, because you really have to do a deep dive into this. And that's why I always say, just be mindful with the use of the word. And if you know anyone exhibiting such signs, you walk through the process with them of actually getting diagnosed. Someone was saying, as I stated on the other video, that less than 1% are actually diagnosed. Now, I don't believe that. I think that, sure, there are many who are not diagnosed, but you should know the signs. You should be able to tell when having any relationship, whether it's with your boss or any other superior, or if it's, in a romantically involved relationship or with a friend. You need to be able to know the signs yourself. And so that's why I decided to go over these different things with you so that you can be prepared, so that you will have all the information that you need so that you can make informed decisions and create certain boundaries, because that's indeed important, that you know the types of boundaries and how to stick to those boundaries when you're dealing with someone who is narcissistic. So today I wanted to talk about one of the other character traits, commonalities characteristics of someone who is narcissist, okay? And I'm talking about, well, I can't say I'm just talking about diagnosed because some people aren't diagnosed. So if they're not, then you show up for yourself, okay? And you look at certain things that they're exhibiting, and then you can make a decision, as I was saying earlier, about the type of relationship you have with them. So one of the things that a narcissistic person will do is something called negging. That's Negging, negging. Negging is when a person tries to manipulate you into feeling bad about yourself. Okay, negging happens in a few different ways. Now, what I have seen in many of my clients, when it even comes to that, you might be someone who's very self-assured with good, healthy self-esteem and self-image. And you could be like me. I tend to be very confident and a very comfortable person, right? And then you're in a friendship, relationship, co-worker dynamic and the like with someone who they portray kind, right? They portray having a kind, gentle nature, kind image, but they are often very shrewd charmers that are very deceptive, okay, to the ones who they're in, contact with. So they kind of are very, their bent, right, is to come across to the masses as an easygoing person, well-liked, well-dependable, well-responsible, and often the life of the crowd. But when you really know them intimately, they can be a tyrant. It's almost like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And the master manipulation is, it's really unconscionable, okay? And so they make you feel bad about yourself in different ways. One would be how they would give a backhanded compliment, okay? And an example of that would be, well, don't you look fabulous? I would never be brave enough to wear my hair like that with your face shape, okay? So that we know that's a backhanded compliment, right? Or they'll say things like, your sister is in such great shape. You should take a cue from her and start working out. So they'll compare you to other people. And I mean, they can go below the belt often. I have so many clients and some of their stories about what was said to them was so out of pocket, right? I mean, just evil, And so when comparing you to other people and you check them, right, and you call them on it or whatever, they'll always say they're just joking. Or they might even beat you to it, right? They're quick to, hide their hand. And so, they'll lighten up, that type thing, Where's your sense of humor? Okay? Now, this will stand out because you'll realize not many of your friends and loved ones and co-workers and acquaintances do this, okay? I'm not talking about people that like to poke fun and jokey pranksters. Trust me, you will know the difference. If you've seen what I've seen and heard what I've heard, it stands out. Another way they neg you is they insult you under the guise of constructive criticism. So an example of that would be, that report was terrible, but the subject is completely over your head after all, okay? So they basically say you did a bad job and they should have never assigned you to do that report anyway because you're dumb. Okay, that's basically what you're saying. That's what they're saying, okay? So they insult you under, again, the guise of constructive criticism. Now, if you're like me, you know what constructive criticism looks like, right? You know the tone, you know the concern, you know when it's regular critical, words, as opposed to lacking empathy. That's another thing about NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. They have no empathy. When I say none, you will know, because you will, in your mind, think you've never seen in your life someone that inconsiderate in every area about everything at any given time. They never, ever consider anybody outside of themselves. So what you would call selfish, it's a very inflated sense of selfishness. So it's tantamount to inconsiderate, no consideration. Another thing they do is they disguise insults as questions. Okay, so many of us who have an ounce of street smarts, okay, as I like to say, discernment. And you can pray for that, right? You can pray for sharp, keen discernment, right? And if a narcissistic person says anything in a question form, usually they're not answering the question that you asked them directly. Okay, you know that old game, right? Answering the question with the question. But the insults, right? They'll say stuff like, don't take this the wrong way, but are you really going to eat all that by yourself? Now, we're talking about all the time, guys. We're not talking about a jab here, a joke there. We're talking about all the time. And you'll know, because after a while, when you have peeped this and pegged them, it'll be unnerving. They will start looking and feeling to you like a wimp, if you will, right? Like always under the belt, undercut, right? And it's like a twisted type thing of communication, and it's almost like, come on, woman up, man up, type thing. Like you always got to come, from a coward, if you will, cowardly approach. One other thing when they use negging is they make you feel sorry for voicing concerns by minimizing their mistreatment. Now, a good way of thinking of that is, you ever had someone try to manipulate you because you responded to their disrespect? Anybody? I'm sure you have, okay? So they're the one out of pocket. You respond to take care of yourself, and they put it all on you, okay? I'm going to give you just a couple of examples, and then I'm going to get off for now, but put your notifications on, because I'm going to come back on, okay? Now, another characteristics of a narcissist is they'll promise you the world, but will deliver an absolute nightmare. Promise you the world, but deliver an absolute nightmare. Narcissists enjoy being feared. Manipulation is when they blame you for your reaction to their disrespect. We just said that. The narcissist doesn't have any power on their own. They just need that one person to abuse. Okay? There's one where it pretty much talks about they don't take any responsibility for their behavior. When I mean like ever, like never, like ever. They don't respect your boundaries. They blame you for their emotional response. They point out your flaws always, okay, to feel superior. They project their insecurities onto you, okay? They will have circular conversations. So it's like riddles on top of riddles, on top of head games, like very inflated. It's on like a steroids, okay? Circular conversations with you just so they can avoid responsibility. So it's like talking to a child, okay? We talked about earlier, they want to be kings and queens, but they have the accountability of a child. So it's almost like saying, but you didn't do, but how did it do, but you didn't do, and why you didn't do it? And you're like, it's two separate questions. I asked so-and-so, and you said, yeah, you never got back with me on that. But I asked you, did you realize you forgot to do it? You know, and they'll flip it, you know. You didn't get back with me on that. So they don't take accountability for their portion and answer your question. They'll put it back on you. They're very fake, self-obsessed, right? Which is self-absorbed, but remember, it's very inflated. It's on steroids, okay? Hold 1 second because I'm losing here. Okay, and they're very entitled, okay? And they feel courageous only when things are convenient. But when things are difficult, like you trying to get them to take accountability or ownership, they hide behind a group of fixers. So those are the people on the other side of the relationship. And they volunteer you, right? And they think you'll gladly help them, make them look good, right? Because again, the image that they portray is being very kind and, you know, always available and all that, dependable. They may be the life of the party. So everyone else around them who knows them in groups and stuff and doesn't really have a one-on-one relationship, they're always the ones that's like, I would have never thought he would have done that, okay? And so they never get their hands dirty when the situation demands it. In the same way, they blame others for their own mistakes. They overreact a lot and never do what they say they will do, okay? And when I say never, like never as in never, they did not change you. Just, you know, they're mad because they can't change you. They just want to get in your head and make you their next victim. And then it grows and it intensifies when they find their next supply. So the next supply is the person that the narcissist in romantic relationships cheat on you with. They generally, because of their own pain, almost always involve themselves in infidelity. So what they'll do is really kind of crank up all of the narcissistic abuse, which is really mental and psychological, but it's a whole nother level because they will never take accountability ever. And they would have to be in treatment. They would have to, you know, get therapy to learn certain techniques. But as the world would say, they can't be cured. Now, of course, you know, Jesus can do anything, but just know that if they're not willing to stop, right, because of all of the reward they get to themselves for creating new victims and leaving that victim to create a new one, they like contaminating people's health, relationships, finances, contaminating them spiritually, because it adds a sense of self, like they have conquered you. And then after you figure them out and create new boundaries and don't show emotions when they pick fights at you and things like that, all becomes eroded. And, you know, by the time they have destroyed you and they're, you know, use you as their prey, they begin to feed on pretty much everything in their path, okay? Now, just so you know, whenever you see some of these things, just be mindful, even when it's child to parent, right? Sometimes even a toxic parent that may exhibit some type of narcissistic traits, they will demand that you do toxic things. And then when you naturally and rightfully refuse, they will accuse you of being toxic. So that's the shifting the blame, no accountability, guilt trip, you know, try to overpower you, pull rank, and things of that nature as a form of control, okay? Overbearing. When they gaslight you, they say and do things like say, you know, you're being too dramatic, you know, you're the blame for that. Can you hear yourself? That's really popular, right? or they'll tell you you never did that, never said that, that never happened, and you're like, I know what I remember. I'm not asking you to remind me of what I know happened. Okay, so you're 100% sure of what was said, what was done. You might be one who remembers exactly where the conversation happened, what the other person had on, what you had on, where you were, and they will look you in your face and say, "That I never said that. I never did that." Okay. They'll tell you you have recalled something incorrectly and you have a bad memory. Remember, you're the one who, has a bad memory. Or they'll put something on you that neither one of you have never said before. There's been no dialogue about that particular thing. And then out of convenience and so that they can continue to think they're 5 steps ahead, right? They'll say, you have a hard time keeping your balance sometime, remember? And you're like, no, I don't remember that because that ain't an issue. That ain't never been a problem. You know what I'm saying? And so just know that you are not crazy. You know what you recall. You know how things really went. You know what you've done and not done. No matter how much they tell you sound crazy, no matter how many times they tell you are crazy, and no matter how many people they go behind your back, because they're real grimy, okay? If you could hear some of the stories of some of my clients and some of the lies narcissists volunteer to people who know you or people who don't, people that they're involved with that don't know that person or do know that person, you would be amazed. You would be taken aback at the lies and the different ways they try to make you out to be a villain, okay? But no matter how many times they tell you you're making something up, or no, they didn't say that, and no, they never did that, no matter how many times that they call you sensitive and say that you're dramatic and that you're imagining things, that is a very popular one. Or even saying that you need help. They're not willing to ever get help. And if they do, they don't follow through. They'll say they'll go get help, and then they won't give you an update about the status of getting help, and you have to bring it up, and then they weasel their way out of it. Okay? These are just some ways, and this is very inflated. This is like all the time when you're dealing with someone with NPD. I'm not talking about natural relationships where somebody here and there might flake on you. This is not that. You'll know the difference. Trust me. But I want you to know it's not you, okay? It's them. And so be one who creates clear boundaries. Know when to end the relationship, and that means have no contact, right? Just go zero dark, block them, all of that, okay? It's almost inevitable, especially when they have a new supply. So if they're cheating, which again is almost inevitable that a narcissist, because they feed, it's almost like a vampire, literally. They feed off of their next victim, okay? Because they have no self-worth, they have no self-esteem. And so they are looking for false self-esteem, false self-worth. And yeah, they usually have issues with certain sex, whether it's their same sex or the opposite sex. So it's like a love-hate thing. And even if they abuse you over and over and over again, even after a while, if you're starting to wonder if you really are going crazy because how they chip away at your mental, where you start second-guessing stuff, that's what they want you to do. While they sit back, with a sheepish grin behind your back, of course, and laugh because they feel that they're getting in your head. They'll wait for a moment when you retaliate with reactive abuse for the sole purpose of playing the victim in their distorted and delusional world. But you have to remember, it's not you, it's them. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop here. Again, this is just what I've learned, coaching over the years, counseling, and just studying this way before it became what it is now, buzzword or trend. Please don't join the trend and just, tell people they're acting or are narcissistic or a narcissist, because, unless you know that for a fact, then it's something we shouldn't, play around with. We have to be sensitive to this mental health disorder because it's a personality disorder, much like, just as there are other ones, not much like. There's dissociative personalities, multiple personalities, right? And so many other pathological types of personality disorders, psychopath and things of that nature, sociopath. And if any one of us had any of that, we wouldn't want anybody to, just be around us, talking about us, naming us as such, not calling us out of our name, or if they're around those who don't know, they don't want to be looked at or hear people joking about something that they have themselves. And so just be careful and mindful of your relationships, because again, this particular personality disorder can really weigh you down. It can really turn even a well-respected one who has self-esteem, healthy self-esteem, it could really turn them into a shell of a person, because it's one of those things that over time, it plays on your mind, okay? It plays on you mentally and psychologically, and sometimes you've been with the person or worked for the person so long before you realize what they've done, how they've gotten into your head, and how they have attempted to destroy you, okay? But you're not destroyed, right? You have to learn how to destroy the destroyer, and that is something that you do spiritually, right? Through your prayer life. Set great boundaries when you realize that there are people who it may be in your life exhibiting these such things, and just be encouraged, okay? Love them. You can love them from a distance, not contact them or be contacted by them. But these particular things are very real. I think they're relevant, and as much as we hear people joke about them, I think it was worth coming on. And again, I don't know how many other episodes I'll do, because this can be very detailed, very detailed. And so just know that mature relationships require reciprocity. Okay, and you know the difference when a person is being reciprocal with respect, reciprocal with keeping you in high regard, respecting your values, respecting your morals, respecting your standards, respecting your boundaries, right? Respecting your non-negotiables. You know when people are doing that versus when they're not, right? And so decide to not let anyone dishonor or disrespect you, whether they are narcissistic or not. Create healthy boundaries for you that make sense for what you want to accomplish in life, because you don't want anybody to come into your life with a purpose of trying to tear you down, because of their own lack, whatever areas they're lacking in, and they come with a purpose, and often it is not of any good, okay? And so I am Sarette Pierre. I'm going to go ahead and get off for now. My website is under construction, but keep up with all that we're doing at Sarette Pierre Enterprises at connectwithsarette.club. Yeah, connectwithsarette.club. I'm on all socials as Sarette Pierre. Getting ready to go back traveling worldwide. as a public speaker and evangelist, and I am going to start acting again. I took off for 5 years because I got married, and the 5th year is now, and so you'll probably see me on your TV screens. And I'm going to really purpose to do voiceovers, and really want to do more commercial acting, so I don't want to have to be on set, for months at a time like it used to be. Well, that's it for now. Go ahead and set and up those notifications to get back on with me going forward, but particularly on this particular series as we break down NPD, which is Narcissistic Personality Disorder. Happy Friday, and yeah, meet me back here. Thank you guys. Bye.